My father said, "What happens at home, stays at home." My sister's 911 call made sure it didn't. I was standing in the driveway loading camping gear into my Jeep when I heard the sirens. 3 patrol cars, lights blazing, tearing down our quiet suburban street at 4:37 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. My first thought was that the Kowalski house was on fire again. Old man Kowalski left his grill unattended last summer and nearly burned down his garage. But the cars didn't stop at the Kowalskis. They stopped at my house, at our house. The house where I'd lived for 22 years, where my parents still lived with my 16-year-old sister Sophie. I dropped the tent bag I was holding and it hit the concrete with a dull thud. 4 officers were already moving up the walkway, hands on their holsters. One of them was speaking into his radio. Another was looking directly at me. My stomach dropped in a way that had nothing to do with surprise and everything to do with recognition. Some part of me, some buried instinct, knew exactly why they were here. I just hadn't let myself believe it would ever actually happen. The front door opened before the officers could knock. My father appeared, wearing his weekend khakis and a polo shirt, his reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He looked confused, concerned, the picture of a respectable middle-aged man interrupted during a quiet afternoon at home. "Can I help you, officers?" he asked, in that calm, reasonable voice he used at parent-teacher conferences and neighborhood watch meetings. The lead officer, a woman with graying hair pulled back in a tight bun, didn't return his smile. "Thomas Brennan?" she asked. My father nodded slowly. "I'm Officer Lisa Ramsey. We received a 911 call from this address approximately 20 minutes ago. We need to come inside and verify everyone's safety." I watched my father's face carefully. I'd learned to read his micro-expressions over 2 decades. The slight tightening around his eyes, the way his jaw clenched for just a fraction of a second, the almost imperceptible shift in his posture from welcoming to defensive. "A 911 call?" he said, and he sounded genuinely puzzled. "There must be some mistake. No one here called 911. My wife is at book club and my son, that's him in the driveway. He's been packing for a camping trip all afternoon." "And your daughter?" Officer Ramsey asked, and something in her tone made my blood run cold. "Sophie? She's upstairs in her room, probably on her phone or doing homework. Teenagers, you know how it is." My father smiled, trying to establish rapport, man to woman, parent to parent, but Officer Ramsey didn't smile back. "We need to see her, now." That's when I knew. Sophie had called them. Sophie had finally broken the first and most sacred rule of the Brennan household. What happens at home, stays at home. My father had been drilling that into us since we were children. It was the family motto, the unbreakable code. When Mom got a black eye from walking into a cabinet, that stayed home. When Dad put his fist through the wall next to Sophie's head during an argument about her grades, that stayed home. When I'd shown up to school with bruises on my ribs from falling off my bike, that stayed home. We were a respectable family. Dad was a senior project manager at a tech company. Mom volunteered at the library. We lived in a nice neighborhood, went to a good school, had a 2-car garage and a finished basement. From the outside, we were perfect, and my father would do anything to keep that facade intact. I'd been living this double life for as long as I could remember. At school, I was the quiet kid who got decent grades and played JV basketball. At home, I was a punching bag when Dad had a bad day at work, a verbal target when he'd had too many beers, a witness to violence I couldn't stop. But I'd learned the rules early. Keep your head down, don't make waves, protect the family image, and most importantly, never ever tell anyone outside these walls what really went on inside them. Sophie was 12 years younger than me, an accidental late-life pregnancy that had strained our parents' already volatile marriage. I tried to shield her when I could, taking the heat when possible, distracting Dad when he started getting that look in his eyes. But I'd left for college at 18, and even though I'd only gone to a state school 40 minutes away, even though I came home most weekends, I wasn't there every day anymore. I wasn't there to stand between Sophie and our father's rage. The guilt ate at me constantly. I'd essentially abandoned her to save myself, gotten just enough distance to breathe while leaving her trapped in the same hell I'd grown up in. Officer Ramsey was speaking into her radio now, requesting backup and a social worker. My father's mask was slipping. "This is ridiculous," he said, his voice taking on an edge. "You can't just barge into my home and demand to see my daughter without a warrant. This is harassment." Another officer, a younger man with a military bearing, stepped forward. "Sir, when we receive a 911 call reporting domestic violence from a minor, we have legal authority to enter the premises and ensure the minor's safety. You can cooperate, or we can obtain an emergency protective order. Your choice." Domestic violence. The words hung in the air like an accusation, like the truth they'd always been, but that no one had ever said out loud in connection with our family. My father's face flushed red. "My daughter is confused. She's going through a rebellious phase. Teenagers make things up, exaggerate. She probably got mad because I took her phone away for missing curfew." He was already building the narrative, laying the groundwork for discrediting her. I'd seen him do it before, and what happened next changed everything. To see the full story, click the link below or go on my channel.